Candles? Oh, they're right here. Are your candles?
No. The one I have.
Oh. We find there's a thing here. Seems like a lot of books there. Yeah. Thanks.
I need all of them.
Yeah. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming and thank you for being here. Shabbat Shalom for Shabbat services. Cool thing about today. Lila, my daughter, is exactly a month old today, so that's awesome. Her neck is stronger, so she kind of she's not the whole floppy thing. You know how babies do right when they're born. So she's less floppy. That's the only update I have. So all I can do now is just talk about my daughter, since I have the mic and I'm just here, and but so why don't we just get started? So we're on page 120, and Genevieve, do you want to light the candles?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you. Beautiful. All right, we're now moving on to page 128 for Hine Matov.
Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov
Shamanayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. We move now to Chado D, which you can find on page 138 of your prayer books. We're going to recite verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, right? Yep, cool. 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we write verse 9, I encourage everyone to stand up and face the entrance as we greet the Shabbat bride.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shabbat nekabela. Shabbat echad, Hishmayanu el hamilchan, Adonai echad, U'shemo echad, V'shemo tiferet v'ligla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki hi mekor haracha, merosh mikdem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'chashat chatila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, ki ba'orekuni ori, uri shir daberi, k'vo'anayim lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise. Bohi v'shalom arekbala, Gam b'smicha u'b'tzora, Tov emuneh am segula, Bohi kala, bohi kala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Okay, you may be seated, and we turn over to Shalom Alechem on page 142. Shalom Alechem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elam, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Belechem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elam. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elam. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Teichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elam. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. now move to the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba Be'alma divrach yotev yamlik malchutei B'chayechon u'byomechon U'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Ba'gala Uvizman kariv V'imeru amen Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarak Le'alam Ulam Me'almayam Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipa'ar V'yipramam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitalo Shemir Kusha B'richu Le'elam Min Kol B'chata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiran Belma V'imaru Amen. Now I invite you all to stand with us as we turn to the Baruch Hu on page 146. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach. HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. We're now going to read the English on page 149, the very top of that page. I'll read it together. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way in which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, ma'ariv aravim. We now continue with the English on the bottom of page 150. Sorry, excuse me. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us, and praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people, Israel. Baruch atah Adonai ha'oev amo Yisrael. We now continue with the Shema, and for this time what we're going to do is we're going to recite the Shema out loud. We're going to recite Baruch Hashem to ourselves, and we're going to have a few moments of silent reflection and meditation. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem, Kevod Malachuto, Leolam Va'ed. We now continue on page 154 of V'ahavta. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meyodecha v'hayehu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinartam levanecha b'divartam ba'am b'shiftecha b'veitecha u'v'techa ha'vaderech ושופך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו תותפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזו ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם. We now move to the Micha Mocha. Yeah, okay, cool. On page 158 of your prayer books. The first part? Okay, let's do it.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nadar b'kodesh, lo tehilot u'sefer. We now move to Hashkivenu on page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom, v'ha'amidenu malkeinu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen.
We move now into page 162 for V'Shamru. Shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat La'asot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam b'rit olam V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat La'asot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam b'rit olam B'nei Yisrael Oti le'olam V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat La'asot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam b'rit olam Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat La'asot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam b'rit olam U'bayom ha'shvi Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat La'asot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam b'rit olam. Okay, I invite you to rise with me as we turn to page 164 for the Amidah. Yeah, I guess so. Adonai sefataytita ufiyagi tehilatecha. Adonai sefataytita ufiyagi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol v'Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, v'mevii geula livnei b'neihem, leman shemo b'yahava, melech ozer u'mashiach u'magen, baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham, Ezra Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayei hakol atah Rav Yoshia, Mashiach haruach u'marid haGashem. Mechakel chayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim berofei cholim, umatir rasurim, umekayem emunato lishanei afar, michamocha ba'al geburot. Umido melach, melech mimit, umechaye, umatzmirak yeshua, v'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol, baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. We're now going to continue silently until page 180. You may be seated whenever you like.
Oh, say shalom b'ramah, say shalom aleinu, ve'akol
Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yaakov Yisrael. 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 All right, I'm going to give now a few words of Torah. Okay, I think my computer's, yeah, I can hear myself. Yeah, okay. We'll try to ignore that for the moment. So this week's portion is the one where Adonai, with two angels, visits Abraham and Sarah as they're camped somewhere on the road to Sodom and Gomorrah. There is some debate whether Abraham and these two angels are all strangers, and that Adonai and the angels are strangers, and that Abraham and Sarah don't know that they are. But I happen to believe that to Abraham and Sarah, it's obvious that at least Adonai is here. Anyways, Abraham serves these three strangers, and one of them, who we all know is Adonai, asks about Sarah. And it goes on to mention that a year from now, Sarah will have a son. Upon overhearing this comment, Sarah laughs. And apparently, this is an inappropriate laughter, because Adonai instantly demands to know, why did Sarah laugh? Sarah attempts to backpedal. She says, I did not laugh, to which Adonai directly refutes her and says, oh, Sarah, you laughed. And this is essentially the story that everyone knows. But I believe the story is way more complicated than that, especially since the narrator adds more detail than what we usually get in the Torah. And so I'm going to take a second pass at the stories. I'm going to call it the patented Rabbi Abram's second pass. So here we go. So first off, right after Adonai revealed to Sarah her future pregnancy, the narrator makes sure that we, the audience, knows that Sarah is old and infertile. The verse states, Sarah was old, well advanced in years, and the way of women had ceased for Sarah. I believe what the narrator is suggesting is that she has reached menopause. Not only was she cursed to not have children during her peak childhood years, or child-rearing years, but now pregnancy was doubly impossible. I believe our narrator here is laying down the groundwork for how a miracle of that's such a miracle that Adonai is able to do. Next, the Hebrew says that Sarah laughed. And by the way, laugh in Hebrew is Yitzchak, which is also Isaac's name. And I'll get to that in a moment. But it doesn't just say that Sarah laughed. It says that Sarah laughed inwardly, as if Sarah did not physically laugh with her mouth, but laughed in her head. Then we get to know exactly what she is thinking, because the Torah quotes her and says, now that I'm withered, will I have pleasure with my husband so old? Lots of commentary on this quote. Some think it's about the pleasure of intercourse, and others think it's about the pleasure of child rearing. Either way, we know that Sarah thinks this, but doesn't say this. This moment where Sarah laughs inwardly, I've only really begun to truly understand. When Leah and I had difficulty conceiving our second child, I began to feel this way at any possible good news. Infertility brings unbelievable hardship. It's such an emotionally messy and complicated place to be, and can be disastrous for one's mental health. And I think Sarah here shows great restraint to laugh inwardly. And I think that laugh was involuntary. It was what she needed to do to cope with the situation. Her infertility was so traumatic that she had a moment of disbelief about what was going to be a sure thing, God exclaiming her pregnancy. Now, what happens next is so unfair, yet such a common example of what women have to suffer when it comes to infertility. God cheats and reads Sarah's laughter in her mind and exclaims, "Why did you laugh?" This scares Sarah, and she rightfully replies, "I didn't laugh," because she didn't, at least not outwardly. But God, in an unfortunate move, replies back, "But you did laugh." Since the Hebrew is a bit unclear here, some commentators think that it's Abraham saying, "But you did laugh." And that makes it so much worse. Abraham didn't hear the original laughter, but it piles it on since God hears the ringleader. And even if Abraham didn't say this, he certainly doesn't defend her. How horrible that Sarah is doubly hurt by this situation. She is not allowed to have a moment to process this new information before she is blamed for how she processes it. In my mind, anyone who has to deal with a long-term infertility gets to process the news of pregnancy any way they want. Furthermore, God breaks one of Judaism's most important tenets. You can't sin by thinking, only by doing. Sarah was coping with this information internally, and still Adonai calls her out on it in front of Abraham and two strangers. And I haven't even gotten to the most mind-blowing part yet. This is not Abraham's first time hearing the news that he's going to have a child from Sarah. God told Abraham in the previous chapter, which I have some problems with because Sarah's not there when God tells him, but that's one battle at a time. Anyways, Adonai reveals to Abraham that Sarah will be pregnant, and what does Abraham do? He laughs outwardly, with gusto, while thinking to himself, how can a man of 100 have a child? Does that not sound like the laughter of disbelief to you? Adonai is so tickled by Abraham's laughter that God keeps the joke going by telling Abraham that he is to name their son Yitzhak, aka he laughed. Of course, Sarah, like many women with infertility, must endure this double standard. Anyway, to sum up, there is this quote about laughter by Rabbi Weinberg, and it goes like this: "Laughter destroys everything in its path, good or bad," which sounds a lot like a warning. Laughter can be inappropriate. I happen to think that most people know this already. We know not to laugh at a funeral. We know it's wrong to laugh at others' misfortune. So when laughter does happen at a strange moment, we should not be angry by it being inappropriate. Instead, we should be concerned and compassionate for a person who may know better but can't help it. It's up to us to understand why they laughed and try to empathize with the experience that makes one laugh at an inappropriate time. Anyways, this is the message that I believe is the true takeaway from these verses. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on now to the Misha Berach, our prayer for healing, on page 371 of our prayer books. Before we do that, I'd like to list these members of our community who are in need of healing. They are Tina Mink, Chris Converse, Jennifer Eskridge, Ian Clift, David Tobias, Katie Flagel, Lindsay Raber, Micah Purdy, Cheryl Lambriani, Laura Allen, Susan Super, Mary Jo Robinson, Melba Cook, Emmy Webb, Stephen Lamp, Russell Crass, Bill Ross, Alan Friedman, Russ Nog, Ross Rumack, Norma Haas, Ray Ellis, Judy Cantor, Carol Riven, and Diane Kaplan. If there's anyone who you are thinking about who's in need of healing, please feel free to say their names out loud or in your hearts. We now turn to page 371 of the Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBrecha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishebeach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu.
with refuah shleima, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We now move to the mourner's Kosh, which you can find on page the Elenu. The Elenu we find on page 586 of our prayer books. We're going to recite the bottom blessing of that page. And once you arrive there, I invite you to stand with us. Erev Shabbat l'adon hakol l'tekilah le'oser breshit shelo asanu k'gayei haratzot v'lo shamanu mishkabot ha'amam shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'goralenu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachatim Lifnei Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We continue now on the top of page 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Love each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu Okay, we now move to the mourner's Kosh, which you can find on page 598 of your prayer books. In our own community, we're thinking about these yard sites this week. Clinton Cox, Dale Donahue, Elaine Teicher-Dorr, Leah Finger, Barney Gottstein, Jamie Haas, Seymour Kaplan, Abraham Klavinsky, Bernie Mascow, Ethel Rowitz, Hilda Schatz, Dorothy Silverman, Shirley Toughlin, and Caroline Wolf. If there's someone who you are thinking about, please feel free to say their names out loud or in your hearts. Zikrona livracha, may the memory be for a blessing. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'ilma divra chayotei v'yamlik malchutei. B'chayechon uvyamechon uvchayerecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarak le'olam ulamei elmaya, yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yibramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei kudusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'elma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. You may be seated. Okay, announcements. Boy, we got a lot. Okay, so tomorrow, starting at 10:30, we have Ezra Bremen's bar mitzvah. So you'll be able to see that on our Alaska Judaism Media live stream. You can see that live, or you can watch it recorded later. But that starts at 10:30 tomorrow. Tomorrow is a Torah Uncensored Day. So Torah Uncensored will hopefully start at noon. as long as the bar mitzvah ends on time, we'll see. But yes, so we started the new season of Torah Uncensored, so that's tomorrow as well. And then Sunday is religious school, starts at 10. And then we have our event called Anchorage Unites for Remembrance and Hope, where we are having a memorial for those who've passed away from COVID, and we're also honoring our healthcare workers, and that's on Sunday at 5 p.m. at First Presbyterian Church. So please join us for that. Me and Pastor Matt Schultz have been organizing that event. And then we have a whole slew of more B'nai Mitzvot coming up. Super exciting. We have our adult cohort, or adult B'nai Mitzvah cohort, starting up next Friday and Saturday, and the following Friday and Saturday. They're leading services then, so I can take a little break, which is great. Thank you, guys. And then following that, we have Devin Sims, his bar mitzvah. So it's just a whole month. B'nai Mitzvot, which is super awesome, and they're all going to be live and recorded on our live stream Alaska Judaism Media. So all super thrilled for that. And then of course, so that means that our Saturday morning tech studies are going to be canceled, or I guess delayed for the next month. It's because we're having so many B'nai Mitzvot. And then, but we're still having our morning Wednesday minions at 8. So that's still going on. And there's anything else that I'm missing? I think I got it. Yeah, thank you. We'll just close tomorrow at 10. So just over Zoom, and we'll just see how it goes. Just kind of like last year. Yes. Religious school. Oh. Yeah. But yes, and then the youth group is also invited to come. We'll be invited in there. They're going to have their own program as well. Genevieve is our youth group advisor. It's super exciting. So there you go. I think I hit all of the announcements. So that's great. All right. So then the last thing we've got is our closing melody. Genevieve, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Adon Olam, so it's on the paper.
Adon Olam.
Anything else in mind?
I think that's great. Let's do it.
Adon
Oh,
Olam.
sorry. I know. You got your groove going. What page are we on?
Oh, on 625.
Yeah, I hate to ruin your groove. 625 it is. 625 Adon Olam.
You have to start it this time.
I don't know, like that? A little scared.
Adon
Olam Hashem Malach B'Terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Ve'ein Nasa B'Chetz L'Kol Azai Malek Shemo Nikra Ve'Hacharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yinok Norah Vehu Hayah, Vehu Oveh, Vehu Yiyeh B'Tiferah, Vehu Echad, Ve'ein Sheni, Lahamshim Shelo, Lehaviram, Beri Reshit, Beri Tachlit, Ve'leh Ha'oz, Hu Eli V'chai Goralim V'tzur Chevli Beit Sarah V'hu Nisi Umanoslim Nenatosi Biyom Ekra B'yadano Aftiru Beit Aisham Ve'ayira Ve'im Ruchi Gilyayati Adonai Li Ve'ro'ira. Well, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Genevieve. Sorry for messing you up so many times. That's my fault.
Apparently I've been doing Lecha Dodi wrong for the last several times I've done this, so I call it even.
Okay, cool. Very cool. All right. Anyways, thank you for being here and allowing us to hear your voice. Really appreciate it. And take care, everyone. Have a great night.